Well, guys, back by popular demand, um, I'm going to start doing the weekly fantasy preview again. I've got a little extra time on my hands, so here goes. Let's get right into it. The first matchup we have this weekend is myself versus Neil. I won last week. Neil is 0-1. Um, First matchup we have here: Lamar Jackson at QB for Neil versus Justin Herbert for me. Um, I feel like this is a wash. Either one of them could go off. Um, Projections kind of project that as well. Second matchups, we got at running back for Neil, Jameer Gibbs, and Ty Chandler. I guess Neil knows something I don't. Um, on my side, I have Nick Chubb and Brees Hall. Brees Hall's questionable. They think he'll go. Showed a lot of athleticism last game. Nick Chubb, enough said. Jameer Gibbs, a little less usage than he'd like to see last week. Ty Chandler, not sure who that is. Um, so I give the edge to me here. Wide receiver, we have Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Sun God. I have Jalen Waddle and Keenan Allen. Jalen Waddle also questionable. Same injury he's been dealing with. He'll play. Um, Obviously, this is solid to Neil. I like both of his wide receivers better than both of mine. Tight end, we have Cole Kmet for Neil for the Chicago Bears, and I have Luke Musgrave against Atlanta, new Green Bay tight end. I like Musgrave. Obviously, picked him up this weekend. Um, I like him and I like his usage. Edge to me. At flex, Neil starting Washington receiver Jahan Dodson. Um, I'm starting Calvin Ridley, Jacksonville wide receiver. I give the edge to me. Ridley really looked strong last week. I think he'll follow it up with a good performance against Kansas City in what could be a shootout. Defense, Neil has Eagles going against Minnesota. Good defense versus good offense. I've got the Cowboys going against New York Jets, who obviously just lost Aaron Rodgers. Cowboys had quite a week last week. I like them to follow it up as well. Edge to me. Kicker, Neil has Jake Elliott, Eagles kicker. I have Riley Patterson. Who knows? It's a wash. Overall, I like Neil at the wide receiver positions, but I like me pretty much everywhere else. Um, so I'll take me, and the projections favor that outcome as well. Second matchup we have, I think maybe our highest scoring um, matchup. We've got Waller at your boy, Ryan Patton, Mind Goblin, Joseph Prince. Quarterback, we have Jalen Hurts for Ryan, Geno Smith for Joe. Jalen Hurts all day, and pretty big too. Running back, we have Ryan has Bijan Robinson and James Cook. Joseph has Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders. Um, I think I like Josh Jacobs the best and Miles Sanders the least. So, could go either way on that one. Um, Receiver, we have Debo Samuel and Mike Williams for Ryan, Tyreek Hill and Brandon Ayuk for Joe. Who knows which one of the San Francisco wide receivers will go off. But Tyreek Hill is a monster, so I take Joe's wide receivers. Tight end, we have Darren Waller, tight end for New York Giants nowadays. Joe has Mark Andrews if he plays. If he plays, obviously like Mark Andrews, uh, Higby is on the defense for Joe. Um, so I would like Waller over Higby for sure. But right now, assuming Mark Andrews plays, I like Joe. Marquise Brown at flex for Ryan. Raheem Mostert at flex for Joe. Raheem Mostert questionable again as usual. I think he's constantly questionable. Um, didn't practice Wednesday. They say nothing of concern. Who knows? He just constantly can't stay healthy. Uh, So but I still like Raheem Mostert, at least this week. On the bench, um, I think I'm probably starting who each player has in so far. Defense, they have 49ers for Ryan, and Joe has the Giants. Um, I definitely like the 49ers here. I think the Rams are down this year. Arizona is definitely in tank mode, though, and the Giants could be, hopefully, um, playing a little better after last week's disaster. But definitely like the 49ers because of their talent. Kicker, again, wash, who knows. Um, Joe is projected to win this matchup. If Mark Andrews goes, I'll probably go Joe. If not, I think that Jalen Hurts is good enough to pull this through for Ryan. Second matchup we have, or third matchup we have, is Chase, who stole my name, and Jake Freeman, run CMC. At quarterback, we have Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence. Josh Allen for Chase, Trevor Lawrence for Jake. Josh Allen, I think, kind of got his bell rung um, on Monday. He didn't look right. I think he got concussed, and they just wanted him to play through it after Aaron Rodgers went down. So if he's better, I like him, but if not, Trevor Lawrence looked pretty good, and he's going to be playing in a probably high scoring matchup with Kansas City. Um, so I probably like Trevor Lawrence here. Running backs, we have Christian McCaffrey and Travis Etienne for Chase, Najee Harris and James Conner for Jake. Definitely like Chase's better. Enough said on that. Wide receiver, we have Chris Godwin and Zay Flowers for Chase. For Jake, we have A.J. Brown and Amari Cooper. Zay Flowers, I like the pickup. Not sure if I trust him yet completely or as much as I do either of Jake's wide receivers. Chris Godwin, always going to be limited by his quarterback these days. Baker Mayfield, not that great. I take Jake's wide receivers. I like both of them better than both of Chase's. Tight end, Jake, you better hope Kelsey plays. Obviously, he's going to be the best tight end when he plays. Hawkinson, I like better than Jake's backup. Sam Laporta, rookie tight end. I like Chase's Hawkinson over the backup for Jake for sure. At flex, we have Brian Robinson Jr. for Chase and Jamal Williams for Jake. Probably like Chase's pick, but don't really like either of those to be honest. Um, at defense, we have Commanders, Washington at Denver. Jake has the Panthers at New Orleans. Like the Commanders, I think they're talented and they go against a fairly low scoring offense. Panthers going up against New Orleans. New Orleans looked pretty good on offense. I'm a little biased, obviously, but New Orleans looked pretty good, pretty balanced on offense, and I think they'll blow the Panthers out this weekend. At kicker, wash. Who knows? Who cares? Chase is projected to win this matchup by 10. If Travis Kelsey plays, I think it's going to be a lot closer than that. Let's look at the benches here. I don't really like Chase's depth here. Yeah, I'm definitely playing who I have in if I'm Chase. For Jake, I'd consider Tyler Lockett in for Jamal Williams, or maybe even Cortland Sutton for Jamal Williams if Jerry Jeudy doesn't play. Otherwise, I'm probably playing who you're playing. Probably need to look for a running back on the waiver wire though, if in case Connor can't go. All right, so I'll probably take Chase. If Kelsey plays, I'll take Jake. If Jake doesn't have Kelsey available, then I'll probably take Chase. Fourth matchup we have is Dan Carter versus Ben Towns. Dan, I like Dan's team. I remember that. but also like Ben's team as well. Um, so at quarterback, we have Anthony Richardson for Dan, Dak Prescott for Ben. Got to be frustrating for Ben. Having Dak Prescott, the Cowboys score 40 points and your quarterback gets 6.3 points. That's pretty frustrating. Anthony Richardson really, I guess, ate it up as far as fantasy goes last week. Um, Not trustable though. I think this is kind of even. Um, no way Anthony Richardson replicates this on a weekly basis, and you got to think Dak's going to regress upward. At running back, we have Saquon Barkley versus and Alexander Madison for Dan. We have Derrick Henry and Ramondre Stevenson for Ben. Um, Probably like Barkley the most of all. He's a bounce back candidate and goes against Arizona, who's terrible. Um, Ben has Derrick Henry and Ramondre Stevenson. I like both of them better than Madison. Um, yeah. So that's pretty even as well. At wide receiver, Stephon Diggs and Chris Olave for Dan. CeeDee Lamb, Treylon Burks for Ben. I think I like Stephon Diggs and Chris Olave better than Ben's wide receivers. However, if Christian Watson can go on Ben's bench, definitely substituting him in for Treylon Burks. At tight end, Evan Ingram for Dan, George Kittle for Ben. I like George Kittle for sure. His explosiveness. Never know when he's going to go off, but when he does, it's nice. So I like Ben there. At flex, we have Javonte Williams dueling Denver running backs and Samaje P. Ryan for Ben. Javonte Williams is the back to own in that offense for sure. Um, Although Ben, I would consider Kyron Williams in there as well. Um, Dan, I like. I wouldn't. I wouldn't count out Elijah Moore for your flex position either. I think Dan takes this matchup. Next, we have Patrick and Dan Prince. Patrick's got Joe Burrow at quarterback. Dan has Tua. Um, I like Tua. No telling what Joe Burrow was on last week, and he's going against a pretty good defense. Actually got benched after becoming the most highly paid quarterback of all time, I believe. Got benched in his next start. I like Tua. He looked great. He looked fantastic last weekend. Like him to outplay Joe Burrow for sure. Running back, we have Austin Eckler and David Montgomery for Patrick. We have Joe Mixon and Kenneth Walker for Dan. Dan gambled and won. Kenneth Walker, there's a lot of rumors that his backup was going to take a lot of carries from him. That did not turn out to be the case. But David Montgomery got a lot more usage. The overhyped Jahmyr Gibbs cut into his draft position, and I like the David Montgomery pickup. Eckler, hope he goes. If he goes, obviously he's in the top three of backs. So I like Eckler the best. Then I probably like Dan's two running backs, then David Montgomery, but it's close. I probably take Patrick's running backs over Dan's if Eckler goes. At wide receiver, Patrick has Garrett Wilson and Devontae Smith. Dan has Jamar Chase and DK Metcalf. Garrett Wilson sucks. I'm a Garrett Wilson owner in a couple other leagues. Sucks for us. He was on his way to a great season, I think, and now I think he's going to be pretty much useless playing with Zach Wilson. So unfortunately, don't like him. Jamar Chase, hopefully he bounces back after Burrow's terrible showing last weekend. DK Metcalf is always good. Devontae Smith is always good. I probably take Dan's wide receivers here, just because Jamar Chase is playing with what we think is an elite quarterback in Joe Burrow. Tight ends, we have Dallas Goedert for Patrick and Chigoziem Okonkwo for Dan. Definitely like Goddard in this matchup. Tight end, talented tight end for an elite offense. You always like that, so I'm going to take him. DJ Moore at flex for Patrick and DeAndre Hopkins, questionable for Dan. Um, Hopefully he plays. I guess it's probably maintenance that he sat out this week or today for practice. Um, Probably like him. I hate the Chicago offense. Probably like him more. Um, at defense, we have the Jags for Patrick and um, the Jets for Dan. Probably like the Jets better here. They seem to be pretty talented. They held the Bills to a pretty good point total at the very least. Jacksonville, it's going to be. I think they're talented, but it's going to be pretty tough to keep Patrick Mahomes in check, in my opinion. Kicker, wash. Who knows? Um, if I am Patrick, I am thinking about probably Michael Pittman in for DJ Moore. Just think there's more scoring opportunities there. If I'm Dan, I'm hating that Deontay Johnson is out. I'm probably playing DeAndre Swift. I mean, you got to think if Kenneth Gainwell's out, he's going to get more touches. He's really talented. I don't know why they didn't get him involved last week, but that's neither here nor there. Overall, I'm probably taking Dan. Um, Hopefully, Eckler stays healthy. Last but not least, we have killer eye rolls. Um, Sarah versus Matt, Team Freeman. At quarterback, Sarah has Justin Fields. Matt has Patrick Mahomes, like Mahomes. He's going against an easier defense, and he's just simply more talented. Although Justin Fields has shown he's capable of busting multiple 80-yard runs in the same game. So if you get that, congratulations. At running back, we have Tony Pollard and Damian Pierce for Sarah, Aaron Jones, Rashad White for Matt. I like both of Sarah's. I like Tony Pollard better than Aaron Jones. I like Damian Pierce better than Rashad White. I just don't think Rashad White's very talented, to be frank. Tony Pollard, however, is extremely talented. They like to use him in a lot of ways. I think he got into the end zone twice last week and had a lot of yards. I like him. Damian Pierce going up against a weaker defense, like him as well. Rashad White, again, just not that talented. Wide receiver, we have Devontae Adams and T. Higgins for Sarah. Matt has Mike Evans and Terry McLaurin. Man, T. Higgins, that was a frustrating one last week. It had to be. Devontae Adams, looks like he's still acclimating to Jimmy Garoppolo. Mike Evans didn't really take a dive at all from where he was last year. Terry McLaurin is going to be tough. I think he's going to be shadowed by Patrick Surtain most of the evening. So I probably like Mike Evans the best. Again, it's just Burrow dependent for T. Higgins. But I probably like T. Higgins better. I like him to bounce back from the goose egg last week. Tight end, we have David Njoku for Sarah and Zach Ertz for Matt. Like Njoku, he was getting all the praise out of camp for whatever that's worth. I think Deshaun Watson's still a pretty good quarterback. Arizona's in full tank mode. I just don't, and Ertz is pretty old too, so I don't like that. Flex, we have Cam Akers for Sarah and Dalvin Cook for Matt. Two former Florida State running backs finding themselves in weak offenses. Kind of concerning usage for Cam Akers last week. Didn't really get any carries until the second half in a blowout. You can't think that a blowout's happening with San Francisco. Dalvin Cook looked pretty good, but Breece Hall kind of stole the show for the Jets last week as well. Looks like Dallas's defense is incredibly tough as well. Don't really like either of those flex plays, honestly. Um, at defense, we have the Browns for Sarah and the Saints for Matt. I like Matt here, although Pittsburgh does look pretty bad, and the Browns put up a pretty good score last week. The Saints go against Carolina, first year quarterback Bryce Young with a terrible offensive line, like a couple picks, maybe a fumble. So I like New Orleans there. Plus, I'm starting them in multiple other leagues, so a little biased. At kicker, who knows? Who cares? Um, this is going to be a close matchup. If I'm Sarah, I'm thinking about starting Jacoby Myers if he goes. Um, he looked good last week. It was obvious him and Jimmy Garoppolo have a good relationship. So I'm thinking about putting him in for Cam Akers. Um, I'm also looking to ship Cam Akers if I'm Sarah as well. Sarah's also got an empty spot on her roster. Um, for Matt, sucks about Cooper Cup. Sorry, man. I would probably be playing either Jordan Addison or Michael Thomas. I think both of those are kind of interchangeable. I would move Dalvin Cook maybe up to the Rashad White position, and then at flex I would put either Thomas or Addison. I like the waiver wire pickup as well. You stole that Gus Edwards from me. Um, I think he would be a good substitute for White as well. I think J.K. Dobbins being done for the year is really going to help him. He's pretty talented. So this is going to be a tough matchup. If each player makes the changes that I recommend, uh, I'm probably taking I'm probably taking Sarah in the matchup. Let me see. Let's go back. I'll go back to our first matchup, me and Neil, because I didn't play who I would start. Um, if I'm Neil, I'm not sure what I'm doing at running back either. I don't know. Obviously, I'm going to agonize about my decision over and over and over and switch multiple people in and maybe make some more pickups like I always do. But honestly, if Eckler doesn't go, I might sub Josh. I'll probably sub Josh Kelly in. But I don't see myself making any other changes unless something crazy happens with Brees Hall or Jalen Waddle. All right, so just to recap, I'm picking myself. I picked Joseph. I picked Chase. I picked Dan Carter. I picked Dan Prince. And I picked Sarah. All right. See y'all next week.